work session for September, the Garrett County Board of Education to order. And this time, please rise if you're able for a moment of silence, and then the Pledge of Allegiance led by your board member going first.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we'll have the closed session summary.
Closed session summary, August 11th, 2015. Board of Education met in executive session on Tuesday, August the 11th, 2015 at Central Office in the boardroom at 4:01 p.m. under the authority of 3-305 of the general provision of the annotated code of Maryland to discuss the following items: board meeting minutes, fleet insurance bid, bus contract, and athletic coaches and certificated staffing. The board adjourned the executive session at 5:00 p.m. for a 30-minute break before the work session would begin. Board members present included Mr. Matthew Paul, President, Ms. Charlotte Seabold, Vice President. Board members, Mr. Thomas Carr, Ms. Cynthia Doughton, and Ms. Monica Rinker. Associate members, and Dr. Janet Wilson, Secretary Treasurer, Superintendent of Schools. Also present for part of the meeting were Mr. Tim Thornburg, Director of Human Resources, Mr. Richard Wozlowski, Director of Transportation, Ms. Karen Brewer, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent, was also present for part of the meeting for the purpose of taking minutes. Closed session summary, August the 19th, 2015. The Board of Education met in executive session on Wednesday, August the 19th, 2015 at 1:00 p.m. under the authority of 3-305 of the general provision of the annotated code of Maryland for the purpose of discussing the annual superintendent evaluation. The board adjourned the executive session at 4 p.m. Board members present included Mr. Matthew Paul, President, Ms. Charlotte Seabold, Vice President. Board members, Mr. Thomas Carr, Ms. Cynthia Doughton, and Ms. Monica Rinker.
Thank you. Move on to recognitions. Our first recognition, or our only recognition, is for Northern Middle School. Northern Middle School received the Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports Maryland Gold Recognition Award again for the 2014-15 school year. This is the highest level of recognition available in the PBIS Maryland program. This level of recognition is reserved for those schools that have demonstrated sustainability for the systems, practices, and data utilization for school-wide positive behavior interventions and supports, as well as positive effects from both school discipline and achievement data for at least 2 years. So Northern Middle had gold status in 2011 and 12 and has won this for 4 consecutive years. So congratulations to Northern Middle School. Oh, there you are. Yes, Mr. Ward. Okay, so yeah, if you come up, we have a certificate and of course the banner. Congratulations. Is there anything you'd like to say about the program? Or?
Just as I don't want to say as I say every year, but as I say every year, it's not, I'm here to collect the award, but it's on behalf of the school, the staff, and the students, with ones who do the hard work and make it what it is.
Great. That's the banner. Yeah.
We displayed these in the foyer at Northern Middle School, so stop. Okay,
The big banner is
The right side up on the
Yeah.
banner.
You might want to go over there.
Yeah.
Wait for the sign.
It ain't gonna take.
There you go.
Oops, sorry.
That's all right.
It's good, Jim.
Throw that one.
Everything?
That's fine.
It's just a bright.
Moving on to policies and procedures, Mr. Gank. Looking at procedure 474.211, computerized student records.
He's got it too.
Doesn't call.
Sounds great.
So this particular procedure is essentially an application that our staff fills out to gain access to student data as well as HR and finance data. And it will sunset this procedure pending the outcome of policy and procedure JRB and EHAA, which are action items for this evening's business session.
Okay, maybe an informational item based on that action. Are there any questions? Thanks, sir. Thank you. Look at the continuing business, Garrett County Public Schools Foundation, Attorney Sensel and Mr. McKenzie.
We met recently to move forward with the foundation that we did incorporate a few months ago. In order to file for a 501c3 status for the foundation, the board of that foundation needs to meet and approve its bylaws, approve a conflict of interest policy, and a few other matters. So Allison Schweitzer has been assisting us in really helping push this forward as far as the structure of the foundation. And there were a few things that she noted that she thought we should look into, a few changes to the bylaws that we had previously presented. And one major question in regard to an executive officer for the foundation. I don't know if you want to follow up with the notes that you have, Larry.
Sure. So the idea being most of these organizations do have someone in an executive director type capacity. And, I guess that's one of the things we want to kind of discuss, relative to the board, what the thoughts of the board were relative to that. We also went back and looked at trying to streamline some of the committees and kind of combine some of those. So we've kind of made the recommendation also that we go back and we consolidate the Budget and Finance Investment Committee as well as Audit and Governance, those committees to, and then also make a separate committee for campaign contributions, which is more so like the fundraising, would be the fundraising type arm of the organization. As Attorney Sensel had mentioned as well, we do think there's going to need to be a conflict of interest statement that we'll have to have the charter members sign off on as well prior to kind of moving things forward. So, but the idea of we wanted to talk about the idea of kind of an executive director and what that may look like. If could be someone that is maybe working 10 hours a week, something like that, on behalf of the foundation. Certainly maybe either in a voluntary capacity or for something very, very low in terms of the pay scale, until things really get up and running relative to that. But wanted to get the board's thoughts on that as well.
Have the articles of incorporation been filed, and this is the second step to identify these people? Great. My other thought is we need a volunteer.
I understand it can't be from the board.
That's our interpretation, I believe, as well.
Yeah, I think that'd be too much of a crossover. Although we did, and I forgot to add this, we did look also at the members and adjust. Previously, we didn't have anyone from the board or the superintendent suggesting to be a member of the foundation. And Allison suggested, as most other foundations do, have at least an ex officio capacity, someone either from the board or a designation from the board. And so that's what we added as a member for the foundation. But the thought was, you know, you can have members named, you can have officers named, but you have to have somebody who's going to be pushing forward action to be taken for the foundation's purposes to go on.
Mr. Carr?
Yeah, I would certainly defer to any other member of the board if they wanted to serve ex officio, but if no one does not, I'd be happy to volunteer because, as you know, I've been eager to see this flying.
Any other thoughts or questions? Direction at this point? Mr. Carr would be willing to serve as our rep. That's okay. Yeah.
Did we have to, Cindy's not here. I don't know. if that would-
Yeah, we can check.
We'll check with Cindy.
Yeah. So that part's fine. As far as the executive director, at this point, you want to try to seek out a volunteer?
So,
Okay. Work with that. If Mr. Carr will take the lead on that.
Also, could we get changes that were made on the,
I will send to you, absolutely.
yeah, the streamlining is welcomed because we're just too many committees to ever hope to find people.
Mhm. And
to
that
fill
that
those
was the concern.
positions.
Thank you both. BC, the ethics policy, Mr. Comer.
Thank you, Mr. President. As an informational item and follow-up, I just wanted to make the board aware that the State Ethics Commission has approved policy and procedure relative to the ethics, the board's ethics policy and the administrative procedure that goes along with it. When I spoke with General Counsel to the State Ethics Commission, she was very appreciative that what was submitted was thorough and she believes well thought out.
Thank you. Mr. Comer, any questions? Okay. Moving on to new business, fiscal year 2017 capital improvement project. Mr. Swift.
Last week, I believe you all received a copy of the spreadsheet for the fiscal 2017 CIP. That has been updated. Karen, did that go out?
I don't think we received the updated.
Okay, the updated one was just done recently, and I do have copies of that. And I'd like to. That's what I want. Let me put one down here. If you recall from our previous conversations, the CIP, this is the local CIP. This isn't exactly what will be submitted down to MSD or the public school construction for our request, because this does include a lot of local items as well. But this is a document that we would submit to our county commissioners and asking for their support and consideration for the funding. In going through this, the first item we have is Southern Middle School renovation. You'll see from the previous submission, the overall cost of the project has gone up significantly, and that's due to the construction cost and the site cost that the state evaluates every year. The construction costs for the last year have gone up over 21%, and the site costs have gone up almost 58%. So this new number reflects those new square footage cost numbers, which added about, I think it was approximately $6.5 million to the total project. Also, we discussed in having all the expenses centered in 2 years. The project will take 2 years, but we spread out the cost over a 3-year period, knowing that the third year, fiscal year 19, we would have cost associated with the furniture. We had that budget in year 1 and 2. We moved that out to budget in year 2 and 3, knowing that we wouldn't purchase furniture until we're ready to move in. We also included the retainage for the construction cost in year 3. That's a typical thing that we do, is we retain about 5% of the total construction cost to make sure that our punch list items are being corrected and any other issues that we may have with a contractor we hold back. And we budgeted that amount also in year 3. So what this does is kind of spread the cost of the project out over 3 years as opposed to 2. The next item on the list was the Northern High School parking lot and bus loop renovation. The request was made to move that out to fiscal 2020, which was done, both the planning and the construction for the project. We also had the Northern High School and Southern High School planning and construction cost for the air conditioning system for both high schools in fiscal 2020 and 21, and the construction in 2022 for Southern High School. And the last item on the list is the Broadford Elementary School renovation and roof replacement. The roof does need to be replaced at Broadford. Talking to our roofing specialist, he's telling us we have maybe 5 years left on that roof until we're hopefully 5 years. And then we may be seeing some major issues. The school's 38 years old, I believe it is. So we've done repairs, but it's time for a roof. And also for a renovation for that school as well. If you recall, that's an open space design school. And that would be the next logical school in place for a renovation in our schools. So this is the CIP. Again, this needs to be submitted. We'll take action here at this meeting in the business session so that we can submit this to the county commissioners so they can do their planning and research and work to see if they would approve the funding. There is a timeline here that we need to submit a letter of commitment from our county commissioners to Public School Construction IAC by November 23rd. So there is a timeline here that we're working against to have this CIP, especially that is for the Southern Middle School renovation.
And also, Bill, my memory serves me correct. We are on a timeline for an October 5th packet of what the district is requesting goes in on the 5th of October, and then we have our hearing with the IAC on the 20th.
Correct. The IAC has forms that we need to fill out that is more detailed than what's on the CIP here. That needs to be, the whole package needs to be submitted by October the 5th. Then they consider, then we go down and have our meeting with them face to face.
The project on the CIP includes the optional performance arts center.
It's included in the total cost here, but we are designing it as an ad alternate so that there'll be a base bid for the renovation of school, and then the performing arts center is an alternate.
And it's possible to get a breakdown with that, Al.
Yeah, yes, I can do that. I have that on the worksheet here, actually. So
Okay.
I can let you know what that cost would be.
That would be great. Other questions?
I need to ask a question. Down here with the Broadford renovation and roof replacement, you show $1.2 million, but that's just for the local design. So the total estimated cost is in that. So if anybody would look at that, they would think that for $1.2 million, we're going to be able to do what we're going to do at Broadford. But that's only the design, because this would have to go. Do you see what I
Shows in red down there, though. LD means local design.
Right. But should there be a total estimated cost? I don't think there should be a total estimated cost, because of what? For the renovation and roof replacement.
There is.
Right there, the 1.280.
That's just the total for the 640 over 2 years.
But these others are the totals for the whole project.
It would come on when the project comes on. Because the project's not yet on the CIP.
Right, but how would somebody know that? How would somebody know that that's not just, that says that's the total cost of the project?
I guess we don't know the total cost until we.
You see what I'm saying?
Well, if you'd like, we could put a note underneath there, that this is design cost only, does not include construction costs.
That
Would
would
that
be
be
good.
helpful?
People that
Right,
aren't here at
because
the
these
meeting.
other totals, correct me if I'm wrong, these other totals are actual totals. And this does say total estimated cost.
They're estimates, they're not actual costs.
Right, there is.
Well, but they're of the whole project.
Yeah, because.
Well,
of
Right,
CIP,
but they're based on an estimate until we put them out for bid and get, because that's what happened to our colleagues to the east. They had estimates down on this very sheet, but when it went out to bid, it was $25 million more.
Right.
So really, nothing on here can be considered actual cost.
Okay, I was just thinking that since that says total,
That's fine. And he'll make the asterisk. And
Yeah,
put that on.
yeah, I see where you're coming from, Troy. You don't want them to think that that
Mhm.
includes
But that
construction.
is the-
right.
And there's other columns out here.
Yeah,
This
and
just
that's
goes
what it
through
would be after
2022,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right. I want people to know that that's not, we're not gonna get a roof and a replacement of renovation for $1.2 million. Because, you know, stuff gets in people's head and then they're disappointed when it costs more than that.
Other questions on CIP? Feeling of the board as far as voting tonight on this. We are going to schedule another meeting to review the audit at the end of September. So I think we might delay a vote until we, so would be because of the increase on the CIP. until that point.
It'll also give us a chance to look at
Mm-hmm.
the,
Okay.
And the motion of, when we get to the next, it's up for action.
Yeah, we will just change
Okay.
the agenda when we get to the
Another way.
the business session. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McKenzie, copy your bids.
Thank you and good evening. And I guess I do want to make one correction. And this item is tabled under copier bids, but these items are much more than copiers. They're true multifunction devices. They scan in color. You can email from there. You can certainly make copies and still use them as fax machines. But we're here tonight basically is a culmination of putting together several schools, a pool of copier, or a pool of devices from several locations. And what we ended up doing, we put those out, a request for proposals out, and that happened on August the 6th. Then on the 27th, there were 6 people that actually put in proposals for the business. There was a committee made up of 2 principals, 2 administrators, and 3 members of finance that met and reviewed. 4 of the 6 vendors came and presented to the selection committee. And what the selection committee came to a unanimous recommendation, and that was to enter into a 60-month agreement with Landis Office Center for these devices. Okay. You know, from a cost perspective, Landis did present the least expensive option. You know, and we were very impressed with their the training, installation, maintenance, and service that was also included. You know, and as well as whenever the proposal was submitted, there were certain requirements that we had in the proposal. For instance, an aggregate number of copies. This is for an aggregate number of copies where previously, if a certain school had overran their copies, they weren't really given credit for you know, another school that was perhaps under in copies, because typically there was different vendors involved. Okay, so what this serves to do is to, instead of having 5 or 6 different vendors at each of our schools, bring this pool of copiers under one vendor. And again, from a technology standpoint, I think the devices are top notch. They also provide seamless maintenance and service, online. There's the ability to kind of troubleshoot things online as opposed to having staff members necessarily come out to troubleshoot machines. From an accounts payable perspective, we're becoming more efficient because we're cutting one check a month as opposed to several checks for different vendors. And we're also going with a vendor who is an existing vendor of the system that has a very strong reputation, as well as really good local references as well. And so it's the recommendation of the committee that we move forward with Landis Office Center for these devices, this pool of devices, with the idea being that probably in another 18 months, we would go through the same process and, for the remaining devices throughout the system that will be coming off lease at that point in time. So, any questions?
What's the money amount of the bid?
Okay. Well, this is ultimately going to save us approximately $15,000 annually. What we're looking at is probably a commitment of about $67,000 annually. Okay, and that again is for represents the annual charges. Okay. And again, what this is, this provides new machinery with color alternatives, color scanning as well, as we move forward and bringing our technology more up to date with the expectations of the school system and what we're trying to do from a technology standpoint as well. Plus, it's a cheaper alternative to traditional printing. Additional questions? Yeah.
So within a year and a half, then the hopes is that all schools will have their copiers replaced, is that correct?
It depends on the way the remainder kind of cycle through their lease dates, but that would be within 2 years for sure. And again, you have to have a pool of copiers for it to be really cost benefit, to get more bang for your buck. So that would be the expectation then.
And then the one you said we are leasing now will go back to the company they came
Correct.
from.
That's correct.
And the savings, will that come from like maintenance of them, repairs?
The savings, and again, as technology becomes, again, we're looking at what was new 5 years ago. There's economies of scale that, first of all, replacing them all at once. Plus, as technology tends to get cheaper as things move along. So that's really the main reason. We're getting. I think this would be 22 machines across 9 schools we're looking at.
Thank you.
Plus the central office. Yeah.
Yes. Did you say, as far as the amount of materials used, that it would be overall all the machines, not just like you have 1,000 copies on this machine and then you have to pay more?
So this is an aggregate of images.
Okay, so you have a big number.
Correct.
And this is to be used between all of these 9 new machines?
Well, there's 22 new machines across 9 schools.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
It's 22 machines.
Right. So
Okay.
so in the past where, like I said, one school may have been ran over by, say, 5,000 copies, and there was they had to eat a per copy charge for that overage. Now, we look at everything in the aggregate and it's for the whole year, a period of a year. So I believe it was 5 million images is what we're looking at. 4.8 million images.
You still have a way of knowing which machines that's on? You would,
We
wouldn't you?
will, and not only that, the vendor will also be able to manage that and be able to see, to dial into those machines to see, to pick up the usage. The days of, opening up the door and taking a copier account are somewhat behind us now. So.
This will be on the business session agenda for approval. Thank you. Food and nutrition service bid orders for 2015-16, Mr. Green.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I believe you have a memo regarding our bid awards from June. It's not attached to it. Well, what's in the public agenda.
Under executive content.
Oh, it's under executive.
It's
Okay. That works.
It's under executive.
Go ahead.
It's just a list of the items that we awarded to the different vendors this year. We didn't bid everything. We have some items that are on multiple year bids. So these were the items that were due up for contract renegotiations this year. So we picked the best award and awarded that. We're part of the Premier Buying Group, which I think we've talked about in the past. And that covers everything that we would purchase from U.S. Food Service. But we find that we feel there are some things we can get at a better price from other vendors. So we go out, bid those. Just look for wherever we can save $1, a penny. The smallwares is, we spent a little bit of time after the smallwares awards came in, bids came in. We're members of several different buying groups, not taken advantage of them in the past because we've just not found that the pricing is, we do better on our bids. So we stay with those. Did the same thing this year, looked at a couple of different buying groups. Then I spent some time looking at some of the different counties and their smallwares bids. Smallwares is kind of an easy thing to compare across the state because basically it's just shipped to you from wherever. It's not something that has to be delivered on a weekly or basis. So, and I felt that we did pretty well. Actually, I thought we did very well compared to the buying groups. I thought we did pretty good against even some of the larger counties, the Baltimores. And I'll be honest, I did not have time to look at all 23 others. And not all 23 others are posted on their website, but I know Baltimore counties, I spent some time looking at theirs because I figured, and I thought we were very competitive with those. Montgomery County was the one that I was thinking, I wish I had some of those prices. So I think it's going to be a conversation with Montgomery County this year to see if we can piggyback off of some of their bid. So
Theirs might be because of bulk too. They might get
Oh, absolutely.
better, yeah, because of bulk.
yeah,
They're so small.
so I think if we can piggyback off where we can, then that's to our benefit. So.
Okay. And then you also have the food nutrition summer feeding.
We had a great summer. Numbers went up over last summer. That's what we were shooting for. We expanded where we were. I was thinking we were in 9 locations. I think we ended up being in 12 or so, maybe more, when it was all said and done. Some were just week-long, 2-week-long. Most of the places we were all there all summer long, up until August 14th, I want to say, something like that, just to try to help where we could. The college and Dennett Road are great sites. Those are, we know how many kids are going to be there pretty much every day. so that really helps our production. That helps cover the bills, and then everything else is just kind of out there to try to help the other kids that we can. Liberty Muse was an excellent location this year. We have some problems with it as far as weather related. We don't have any place to put the kids when it's not raining or when it is raining. So something we want to work on for next summer, try to figure out last summer we were across the road at Glades Park, but they didn't cross the road to come. So we went to them. We were doing 30 or 40 kids a day at Liberty Muse when it was all said and done. So it was a great, and I don't think all those kids lived there, but I think they showed up there, because that's the nice thing about we have open sites. Any student from anywhere, anybody 18 and under can come and join us for meals. So it doesn't have to be from Garrett County, it doesn't even have to be from Maryland. So I had a conversation with a group today, so we're already looking at next summer, looking to expand to see where we can go. I think finding some smaller pockets where we spend 10 or 15 minutes to stop and feed kids and kind of move on to the next one is our next approach for next summer, to try to, I think the big spots we've hit, I think we'll just find small pockets from here on out, which is okay. Telling Dr. Wilson earlier, I'd love to have a school bus that we could load kids inside the bus and feed them. There are some systems out there, not in Maryland, but in the country, that are doing that. Gives you your weather coverage and everything. You just load it up and go. So we're gonna spend some time trying to find a grant or something to get us there.
Yeah.
On the Liberty Muse, do they have like a community room or something? They don't, it's all just apartment area.
Now, I think the senior building next door does, but we've not approached them because they're not their tenants. So we've not approached them to go there.
Do you use the pavilion?
At Liberty Muse? I'm not familiar with the pavilion.
That's where they were.
Yeah.
And they just didn't come to us at the pavilion. We thought we'd get the Glades kids and Liberty, and it didn't work out. So that's okay. We'll go where they are.
So do you go, like, I see that breakfast wasn't a real big hit.
Well, we only do breakfast at Senate Road and at Garrett College.
Okay, so where these zeros are means you didn't do it. It doesn't mean that nobody showed up.
No, there are some zeros where we were there and nobody showed up.
Oh, okay. So the stuff you fix stuff that can be, is packaged? or can just be-
Everything is individually wrapped when it goes out,
Okay.
but we don't use a lot of our sandwiches. We make that morning and try to use that day, so there is some food waste involved. We do hamburgers, hot dogs, barbecue sandwiches, pizza, chicken nuggets. We do a hot lunch. We have some cold stuff that we take with us, but we try to give the kids a hot lunch.
So is this different, vehicles going out, or is this more?
We had 3 different vehicles going out this summer.
3?
One went to the northern end, stopped at the college, dropped off food for that day, then went to Friendsville and then to Grantsville. We had one that went to Liberty Muse in Crellin, and one that left Dennett Road and went to Lock Lynn, Deer Park, and Kitzmiller. So we had 3 different vehicles going in 3 different directions.
And you have to rent one for the summer then?
We did rent one, but we got a grant from Share Our Strength to pay for the rental of that. But I don't think they'll pay for it. They only pay it for expansion, and that was considered expansion. Next summer it will be considered expansion. So that'll be the next challenge, is how we get there next summer.
So the kids at the college are there for?
They're there for sports camps, they're day camps that they can stop in and just eat if they choose to.
I knew there were things going on there.
Yeah, the nice thing about the sports camps and the day camps, we know we have a population that we can feed every day. So that makes it easy for us to cover the expense of the labor that's there.
Okay, so that's grant money?
No. The grant money paid for the van, paid for a little bit of equipment. It's not paid for labor or food. So the program itself has to pay for that. So we get a reimbursement from the federal government for each meal we serve.
Okay.
A little over $3 a meal. Sorry, I can't give you more.
Okay,
Exact
so
numbers.
there is a reimbursement. Okay.
It's actually better than our lunch reimbursement. It's kind of depressing, but it's okay. We'll take what we can get.
I just want to thank Scott and his staff that comes out in the summertime to help with this program, because without it, there'd be a lot of kids that, go very hungry all summer long. And it's really a benefit to the communities where we're able to serve, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a
Which takes
challenge.
extra work on your part, because you have to do the reimbursement from the federal government but it's a great
Yeah,
service.
it's that's what keeps us going. We need the kids. The kids at Liberty Muse signed a nice card and thanked us. And it was great. It was a great summer. So if anybody knows any sites that we might want to look at for next summer, please let me know.
Maybe the principals might have a good idea for each school.
And we tried to get near each of the schools. Like and we were at Crellin, but we were at Crellin school, but it was actually better when we moved down the street to the church. So it's just kind of finding the right location.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
One of the weekend I seen you had the week of September 14th to the 18th is the week of home grow.
Yes.
Does that mean they'll have like corn or something in the school?
We're not having corn this year. We have something every day next week. Monday is fresh mozzarella from High Country Creamery. Tuesday is some fresh tomatoes and lettuce from Garrett Growers. I may have this off,
That's
so
okay.
sorry.
That's all right.
We're using some chicken fajita meat from Working Age Farms, the butcher near Friendsville. We're doing sausage patties, hamburger patties, maple syrup
Maple syrup from
here in Garrett County. What is it, Stoyer Brothers?
Squares.
And I'm thinking there was something else, but I can't. I'm working on a press release.
That's
so
all
that
right. That's
all
good.
that
I
can get
remember
out.
seeing it. So.
So we're looking forward to that for next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wellness program, Mr. Hubbard.
Mr. President, board members, Dr. Wilson. I appreciate the opportunity to provide you with a quick update on the Healthcare Coalition's wellness initiatives. If you remember, recall back to 2013, prior to me coming on July 1 of 2013, the Healthcare Coalition undertook an initiative to go with an outside organization out of DC to provide some wellness services. Prior to that, it was more of a homegrown at each school. There was a wellness coordinator or champion at each school to help coordinate efforts like weight loss or walking or other initiatives to help people with wellness strategies. So what we found was that the first year of that wellness initiative in 2013 got a little bit of traction, but it did not get the response that the coalition had hoped for. And then the second year, it just seemed to really fizzle out. And the biggest response from employees, and this is employee wellness, is that there wasn't a local touch. There wasn't a person that they felt that they could go to, that they could name or identify to help them with some wellness strategies. And so with that, the Healthcare Coalition, and that being the college, of course, the board and county government, looked to CBIZ for some assistance. And CBIZ recently employed a wellness coordinator, and that's Mr. Benjamin Morse, to help us with those particular initiatives. And so for 20 hours a week, he will be working with the 3 entities to help get a wellness program up and running in each of the entities and in each of our locations, each of our schools. And so I've asked him to take just a moment and give you a little bit of an update on as to what he will be doing to try and help in each school. I'd like to give you a little bit of background information on him first. Benjamin recently came to work for CBIZ as part of their wellness team. He has 18 years of experience in the health and wellness industry, Prior to joining CBIZ, he spent the last 8 years working as the wellness coordinator for the Department of Energy in Morgantown. There, his role consisted of day-to-day operations of the Wellness Center, facilitating wellness classes, providing safety oversight, CPR first aid instruction. He was a hazmat technician and an ergonomic evaluator. He graduated from Indiana University of Pennsylvania with a degree in sports and physical education, and he completed his internship at UPMC in cardiopulmonary rehabilitation. So, Mr. Morris, I'd like to turn it over to you. If you could just give a brief overview of where the coalition may be going with wellness, and then also if there's anything specific to the school system.
Sure. The coalition, as I'm sure everybody's very familiar with what a standard wellness program is, it just solely focuses on physical aspects, blood pressure, biometric screenings, things of that nature. And what I'm going to bring in the direction all three entities are moving is a well-being program where not only encompasses physical, but also focuses on career, financial, social, and community. The relationships you have with individuals at work, who you are, where you work, where you live, and the stress that might be associated with not being able to pay your bills or financial responsibilities. And it's been determined through extensive research through Gallup polls that focusing on all three of these aspects versus just the physical makes a very happy employee. And through time, this isn't something new. This isn't something trending. In 1903, Milton Hershey built a leisure park, which we're all familiar with now as Hershey Park, for his employees to relax and take the stress away. So this isn't just a trending thing that's happening now. The only reason it's trending is the research that has come from keeping insurance premiums down and the cost of medical benefits to people, which is basically the bottom line as to why companies bring in a well-being program. But all of the employees, if they take part of that, are very happy. They're engaged when they're at work. They want to come to work. They enjoy what they do, and their productivity increases significantly. And with all of those things happening, so do chronic diseases. They're identified earlier and can usually be handled through regular and maintenance care versus if somebody's diabetic and can't be controlled through exercise or insulin. And not only that, but the claims of people going to the doctor increase because they're all good claims. Annual physicals, annual wellness exams, all of the things that you would want in terms of insurance. And the plan is to start slow. Just recently, we rolled out a employee survey to find out the wants and needs of all the employees within the school, all of the schools, to have the employees then complete a health risk assessment so we can determine areas of focus. And then finally in the spring to hopefully have enough engagement where people will want to participate and have biometric screenings where they'll have more in-depth individual data with blood pressure, cholesterol, BMI, and we'll also be able to identify them if they're pre-risk, at risk, or currently in any particular stage of diabetes or anything like that. My primary goal is to just get employee engagement and awareness that these are things that they need to make an investment in. Aside from maybe faith, I don't think there's a better investment other than investing in your own personal well-being.
Outside of the survey, which we'll send out in conjunction with Mr. Morris to our employees, but we wanted to give you the update first. We will, Mr. Morris will be working with each building to identify a wellness ambassador, someone who can work with staff to begin to engage them and motivate them. Mr. Morris mentioned about, companies do this because they want their employees to be happy, but they also want their premiums to be held at a minimum. And if you looked at Center Maryland today, just an example of where in the state of Maryland on Friday, the Insurance Commission Administration approved a 26% increase for Blue Cross as a result of plans for the Affordable Health Care Act. And we've been very fortunate in that premiums have not been raised over the past 4 years. So again, this is an initiative by the coalition to really focus on the well-being and then also to help maintain the premium costs.
Any questions for Mr. Thornburg or Ms. Morris?
So Mr. Morris will be visiting buildings. We're going to get him on staff agendas. We'll be working with administrators for him to begin to roll out some initiatives. And we're very excited. For him to come over. Yes, sir.
We have a home office.
Yes, my office is located at the Clark Garrett College, but I also have a Garrett County Public Schools email in case I need to be reached.
So not only are you working with the Board of Ed, you're working with the commissioners and the college, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes. So Mr. Morris is actually, he's an employee of CBIZ, but the coalition, all three entities will be working with him. He'll be working with them over 20 hours each week, helping them to develop their individualized plan. There are some commonalities in where we want to go, but it's also an opportunity for the employees to sort of tell Mr. Morris where they would like to see wellness go, and that's part of the survey and trying to figure out. So what employees would like to see at Broadford may be completely different at Accident.
This is totally new to me, so I've never heard this before until just right now. At the schools, is it like their option to participate, or are
Yes.
they supposed to?
No,
It's just,
everything is strictly voluntary. Absolutely.
so if they want to ask about one part and not do the other, that would be their choice.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then any information that is collected is not shared with the employer. For example, biometric screenings, blood pressure readings. We work with Mr. Morris and the coalition to get out information on flu shots. It's really to, again, try to make the employee as happy and whole as possible. But everything, of course, and it's a good point, everything is voluntary.
At one point, we had talked about an addition, I think it might have been last year, to emotional health.
Yes.
Okay, is that separate from this? Is this?
It is, and that's a good point. The Employee Assistance Program focuses on counseling for employees and anyone in their household. So it's a free confidential service where they can either meet with a counselor in person, chat with someone online, or talk by phone. This actually, the coalition sees this as going hand in hand with the Employee Assistance Program, because not only are you focusing on the physical aspect, but you're also focusing on the emotional aspect and trying to make sure that those two marry together so that, again, we're having the best employee possible. They're happy. Absenteeism hopefully will not increase. And then again, also our premiums, hopefully there will be fewer visits to the doctors and such.
Okay, so they'll work together then. won't they?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. It's a great opportunity for the two to work together.
I have one more question. With only being 20 hours a week and time, if it really goes forward, and I guess it could always be added more hours a week, or with 3 organizations, that's not much time.
It's not, you're right, but there'll be times where one entity needs the majority of my attention to get a certain aspect up and running or to get the survey out. And other times I'll be able to rely on the wellness champions to do most of the work for me. And I can focus a little bit more attention on one of the other entities that might have been in the same situation you currently were.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Get the Math Science Partnership, Mr. Proctor.
Mr. President, board members, thank you very much for inviting us here tonight. We want to talk a little bit about MSP, which are Math and Science Partnership Grants. These grants are a federal formula grant that comes down to the state, and then the state will dispense those based on a formula or a competition that they hold for the state members, county members, LEA members. And in the last about 7 years, we've been participating. For the reason for these grants are, number one, are to improve knowledge for teachers. It provides a great professional development that is usually a summer institute or possibly meetings that happen throughout the year, which will then ultimately improve our student academics and what they're learning. The one main purpose of it is to connect higher education professors with the local LEA so that we're learning the new and up-to-date information that's coming out. And it also helps us to determine like what they're working with in their teacher education programs, if they're providing the information that we need them to provide as well. So it's kind of a good partnership between the two. In 2009 and 2011, we participated in an e-portfolio project, which were grades 4 through 8. We worked with Washington and Allegheny County. The coordinator at the time was the one who managed the grant funds, and we had 5 participants. In 2011, 2012, we worked with Allegheny County again. It was called the Environmental Life Academy. We had 4 participants. It was in conjunction with Frostburg State University, and these funds were handled by Allegheny County. What happened then is Allegheny County determined that they didn't want to participate in this grant anymore. And how it was set up was Worcester County applied for the grant. They received the funds, but then they dispensed them out to the smaller LEAs. And they called a meeting, which I attended downstate, and they said to me, you know, we'll take care of all the funding. All you have to do is find us participants, find us a higher ed community to work with, and manage the grant, at least as far as through our county, because it funds through our financial offices into theirs and back and forth. So of course, I'm one of those people that think we want to do the most we can for our teachers and for our students. So I said, absolutely, we will participate. So this was our first partnership. And in this first partnership, we worked with Dr. Tamara Willis and Dr. Michael Pelton, who were from Mary Baldwin College. And they were out in the streams and doing testing stream waters, looking for critters. And they had a lot of fun, and we had 10 participants. And these are just some of the pictures for that. And we actually went to Canaan Valley and participated in a weekend there. Interestingly enough, it was in October, and it was our first really big snow. So we actually got to do a little bit of tracking. We were looking for bear tracks and things like that. And we learned about flying squirrels. So that was a pretty exciting time. In that grant, we actually brought $34,713 into the county in stipends and materials that were brought into our classrooms for our students to use. So since then, I would like to introduce to you Dr. Joe Evans and Dr. Kevin Evans, who are at Glenville State College, and this is the new grant that we began this summer. And this grant began mainly with energy and how we work with energy, and then it will go into chemistry and biology. But I'm going to let them talk for a little bit, and then I'll close up at the end again. Any questions so far?
We were delighted from Glenville State College, central part of West Virginia, so you may not be too familiar with where we are or who we are. But we started out in teacher preparation. We were, for years and years, we were just a college debt produced teacher educator. So that's been our history, and that's pretty much our present as well. Excuse me, a couple years ago, we had a chance to begin working with one of your school systems here in Garrett County, and this was Crellin Elementary. And we've had just a fantastic relationship with Crellin. We've had a lot of partnership opportunities where we do things. And so we've really been pleased with that. And then this year, it was suggested that maybe we might like to partner with the entire county in this math science partnership, looking at energy and energy concerns. So we certainly were very privileged to have the opportunity, and we were delighted to accept the offer. We know what kind of teachers you have in this county, and I can tell you, you certainly ought to be proud of them, at least the ones we have met. They have been excellent. We did 3 teacher workshops. I embarrassed them a little bit, but we did 3 teacher workshops on campus this year, and certainly they were very quality people that came in from Garrett County to work with us. We were able to create some opportunities for them, and they simply took advantage of those opportunities, and they've really turned it into a tremendous program here for the Garrett County students and for the Garrett County community, and hopefully they'll share some of those things with you here in a moment. But we're really delighted, we're really pleased with them. We were able to connect them with New Visions, which is an organization, a nonprofit in Philippi and in Barber County. And through that, we got them interested and excited about the use of solar power. And then, and so they have really taken off on that project. And then after that, at the end of the workshop, we were able to get up into Davis Thomas area and spend some time studying the windmill farms up there. And then the rest of the time we were on campus trying to bridge these and to make the content that they needed in order to teach those things available. So we're really delighted we had the opportunity. They're just a phenomenal group of teachers you have here.
There's really not much I can add to that. He had a great summary of how it began, but the things I'll say about them is they are a great group of teachers. When they were at Glenville for a week with us, we got them started by 8 o'clock in the morning. By 10 o'clock that night, we let them call it night. We didn't hear a complaint the whole time, you know, and we'd hear the next day that after they went back to the dorms, they continued working. And I think it's just something about their teachers. The fact that tonight, when I get done with this meeting, I brought equipment because I'm teaching more tonight because they had questions. I think it shows their dedication. And so we enjoyed being part of it because they're so excited about learning and sharing what they know with their students. So it's been a privilege to be part of this workshop.
Well, I have to say, people wonderful to work with as
Yeah.
well.
You have a lot of patience.
Who wants to go?
Well, share, we had, so we can, our original audience for this Google slideshow, which we learned to make during the Chuck's class this summer, was for teaching our students about what we had done. So there's a lot of text on here. We won't expect you to read everything as it comes up, but these are the lights that we constructed with New Vision, and they come in a kit, very nicely packaged. This is something that can travel overseas easily, and they are, so there is a battery that is connected, thank you, to the solar panel. It's a 10-watt solar panel and a battery that can be recharged 44,000 times. Is that right, Angel? Yes. And once it's charged, it is reconnected with a light. Each of us help to make our own. And they're very creative with materials. You'll recognize election signs. And so you can connect 1, 2, or all 3 of these. These are all 3 connected, and you'll see how bright this is. So we just here. So this can be hung, it can be set up. And so this is our solar powered light that New Vision designed after they had built orphanages, I believe some schools in Kenya, asked the local people, when we come back, what can we bring you that will be of tremendous value to you? They'd already built this relationship, and the people said, we need light. We have no light after the sun goes down. Apparently 1.2 billion people in the world have no light after the sun goes down. And so their project was to make these kits available to as many people as possible. And our arrangement with them is they will come to give us a Glow Olympics as the sun goes down on September 19th, Saturday, September 19th. We'll be at Southern High School's track. If it's raining, we'll be in the gymnasium, and donations will be accepted. There's no charge to participate. But they will have solar-powered activities for us to learn about solar energy, and also about the folks in the world who are facing the challenges of not having the benefit of this. There were some heartbreaking stories, and we were very moved by the marvelous people who were there. I will go ahead and show a couple of slides. So some of the people we met were, let's see, is this to the right? To the right. To the right. John and Kathy Prusha, who were part of this New Vision nonprofit agency. Their air evac tubes that are 96 to 98% efficient in their delivery of energy from the solar power, and water tubes. So and John at his RV that is able to travel to Los Angeles and back without requiring gasoline because of his biodiesel fuel and solar panels. His aquaponics, which Carolyn is going to embrace, and so they have quite a catfish feed with all the, there's the capability with the 1,000-gallon aquaponic tank to raise 1,000 catfish. So imagine the nutrients from the water of the catfish being recycled through the hydroponics right next to it there, and then back after it's been filtered and cleaned. Again, just an amazing solar power setup at his home. This was one of our favorites. Let's see, we have, okay, I'm going to go back to the good and bad. So he has directions for when he's off the grid and is actually selling energy. That's good. That's good. And when the meter's running the other way, then that's good.
So if you look at your electric meter at home, you'll see that it goes to the right all the time. Unless you have this capability.
And they figure they save $20,000 per year in their family by using recycled cooking oil and the solar tubes. New Vision, Rustin Seaman is the gentleman here, and he will be leading the Glow Olympics on Saturday, September 19th at Southern. These are two parabolas used for solar cooking in the villages they visited there, also with delivery of lights. This is a church down the street, also affiliated with New Vision, and you can see they have the solar panels to the left there. This is what really blew our minds. This is half of a Mercedes-Benz.
On the right.
On the right. See the two large containers of biodiesel fuel, and so there's a generator attached there. There's an explanation of it here. So they actually have the heated water running under the floor of the building. So by conduction, you have the heating of the floor and then the air above it. So and Kathy Prusha's vehicle gets 380 miles to the gallon with the biofuel they filter. They showed us on the left the process for filtering regular cooking oil and creating biofuel from it. hands with one of our teachers. We all made the solar panels to the right, each of those each cell providing a half volt of power, and so the four together providing 2 volts. So we each made one of those and have those to share with our students and to lead and have the children lead experimentation with them. This is Kathy Prusha on the right, and the famous evac tube that really looks like the interior of a furnace, and that's the one that's so efficient. They had worked with water, and they said, let's just try air. It was remarkable, the difference. Here's where we learned about the solar light kits, and so now we are asking our whole community to please come and participate and help us raise funds to send these lights. Here they are constructed and are high. And next you'll see their basketball court, which is lined in this 3M mirror film. They really ought to make one commercial.
They'll bring some of that play equipment. They'll bring the play equipment on the night of the 19th.
See, they have the interior lined with that. And Rustin is pointing to a patent pending LED lit basketball hoop rim, and I believe part of the backstop also has the LED, and there was something about the basketballs themselves having the LED lights to them. This gentleman will be at our event on the 19th, so we're very excited that Gabriel will be there. We will probably, after using our kits with our classrooms, give them to Gabriel to take back to home. And then this took us, that was our first day.
Yeah, you see how full of professional development these days are.
And then in the lab, with these two amazing gentlemen who are just the most phenomenal teachers. We learned so much from them. I'll just go quickly through this. But we were all engaged. We were all learning the marvelous stories of things that we could then do in the classroom, and they set us up with our own kits of the materials that we need. Here we are using the spark link to measure voltage output of our different fuel cells, and then coming up with our own experiments to do with our students using the materials that we obtain. There's another wonderful group from NEED who will also be at the conference where we present what we've done for the West Virginia Science Teachers Association in November. Ending up with our wind energy, which we had also worked on with NEED, and it was just remarkable. We're very grateful for the opportunity and look forward to what happens next.
And I would like to introduce, of course, Dr. Dana McCauley, Amy Warnick, Danielle Hazelwood, Linda Stevens, Angel Sims, Wendy Craver. We're all part of this group, and I have to tell you, I wanted to be with them in the worst way, but I was here working. So they were sending me pictures all the time, and it would be, texts would come through at 11 o'clock at night. Look what we're doing. And they're making lesson plans. And it was so exciting. And, you know, it's been a wonderful group to work with. A lot of these girls participated in the previous grants as well. The energy grant should bring $24,875 into our system. This new one that we're going to finish off this year should bring $28,500 for a grand total of $88,088 that is brought with these grants into our system to put materials in our classrooms for our students to use, to you know, bring the knowledge to our teachers, who also then impart it to our students. And so it's really worthwhile, and we've just been really fortunate with the professors we've been able to find have just been so good to us, and so I want to thank them as well for all their hard work, because
Penny,
They put
they were
hours
really
in.
amazing because they would be lecturing and we wanted them to lecture. Like, we were like, you need to teach us more. And they would be lecturing and one of us brave souls would say, okay, well, but how does the battery work? Like, how is it really, what is in there? Because we heard you're never allowed to open them, or like we'd have these questions and we come back from lunch and they'd say, okay, we're gonna do a demonstration. This is what's really happening inside it. And then they would have all the stuff there for us and we'd be like, ah, like we were having the aha moments. And then they came back with, and here's a kit for you to take back to school so you can do it with your kids, you know? And so no matter what question we had, and we had a lot of questions, we had a lot of questions. They were always then like right there, and maybe because we were on your campus and you were able to run up to your other labs and, you know, wherever it was, you went and worked your magic and brought things back and like able to take us through the process, just like we were kids, which we kind of were sometimes. We still are. Still just taller than the kids we work with, right? But then we were able to then sit in that seat and really ask the questions and learn the content deep enough that we're not creating misconceptions for our kids. We're not, it just has that confidence then when you get up and teach it. You know, when you're not confident because you didn't major in that, you know, but you understand it now at a much deeper level. It just brings a different air when you go into the classroom. And so each of us had to come up with projects that we would do with our classes. And we wrote them all up and they checked them out for us. And we all shared that one night we were up really late saying, hey, should we do this? And how did that work? And trying to pull the different things that we learned in the materials that we were able to obtain. So each of us have a different project that we're doing with our kids. And then, of course, we have the event on the 19th. And so we can get our kids involved in putting together those lights that will go to families that have school-age children who right now do their homework sitting around a kerosene lamp, which apparently the fumes are worse than smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And so we heard these stories of these kids who literally, you know, I know our parents always told us that they walked, you know, uphill both ways to school for hours at a time. These kids are truly walking like 4 hours to go to school, and their parents are making them do it because they know it's the only way out. And then they come home, they're not able to do homework or not able to do that because they don't have these lights. And so we want our kids to, we're very blessed. I think all of us are, and our kids are very blessed. They need to give back. They need to give back, and no one has to know where they're coming from. Like, they'll never meet these people. Our kids will never meet the people who we send these to, and that's okay. They just have to know that they're doing something good for someone else who will really benefit from it. And that's a really valuable lesson to the kids. They may never get a thank you note, and that's all right. They don't need it. They just need to know inside that they did that for someone. When Liz talked briefly about the stories we heard, and they were awful. There was this mother who gave this account of she put her twin babies down in her hut and woke up the next day, and there was a big black snake in there that ate them. Like, and she's like, if we would have had light, that wouldn't have happened. I would have saved my life would be so different now if I had my babies here. And we were like, oh my golly, you know, it was awful. Like, you don't realize, our kids don't realize how lucky they are that we can turn lights on and off and you can pull out your phone and use it as a flashlight if you want. But there are lots of kids around the world who don't have that. So this is sort of our way of teaching them about solar, and then.
So there's more benefit than just science, technology, engineering, and math. And the community is going to be brought in, and it's these gals are just.
Yeah, we all left New Vision, and we sat around that night. And we were like, man, we got to be better people. We thought we were pretty good people until we met those folks, and then we were like, we got to step it up.
Yeah. I think you know, first of all, the energy around this. I've been out and about in virtually every classroom that I've been in of teachers who have been part of this have shown me the products. I was in Audrey Sharpless class the other day, and we were talking about the Arctic and the darkness, and she handed it to me. And so I think the point here, though, is could you talk a little bit about the September 19th and its intent? I'm not real sure.
Well, I actually have a flyer.
That's clear.
Everybody take one.
Would someone else like to say and participated? Because, you know, I want to get someone else to do things like that.
Thank you. So on the 19th, New Vision will come over, and what they will do is they will bring some of that play equipment that they talked about, and they have what they call Glow Olympics. And so people will be able to be involved, you guys jump in here, and using all of those things and running around and playing with them with something that has been powered by solar. And so that'll give kind of folks the idea. And at that time, then we can also share with them about the projects that we're working on. The event is free. Anybody can come. And the reason it's that night is because it's PV football game. So there are going to be lots of kids next to the football field. And so we thought that was a great time to just bring awareness, if nothing else, just bring awareness to everyone about what that is. So that's what that's about. And my phone number at the school is on there, and we're already getting phone calls about it because Audrey put it on Facebook. Which I don't have Facebook, but apparently it goes wildfire on Facebook. So everybody's getting it down. So that's September 19th. And that's mainly to bring awareness to what our project is and what we're doing. Girls, jump in.
Well, and our hope is that we can get enough money so we can get kits to make
For our
them
kids
in
to
our
put
class.
together.
You're looking for sponsorship.
Sure, donations
That's
are
what I was
accepted,
trying to
yes.
get out of.
Yes.
Going deep there. Our goal is that we want to take what we learned with them and we want to build the kits with our students so that we're sharing the knowledge about electricity and solar and what, and then have our students understand how they can change the world by providing the light. So the kits are about $100 a piece, but then to mail them to Ghana, it's about another $50. So for each classroom to be able to build a few of these kits, we would need quite a lot of money. There are 10 of us in the grant, so 10 classrooms. I mean, ultimately it would be great if we could get enough to buy like 20 kits for every classroom, but even if we could do small groups, that would work too. So we've reached out to local churches. And then Liz and I went and spoke to some local churches. We have some more on the schedule that we're going to talk to. And I've been in contact with the Chamber of Commerce, trying to get on their schedule at an event so that we can talk to some businesses about sponsoring. I know at Broadford, we're even talking about some of our families maybe sponsoring, a family sponsoring the lead kit to put together.
One thing they said at New Vision was people would sign the back, they could autograph the back of the light, and then it's sent away. So we thought it would be really great that if a family sponsored, the child could, help make the light, autograph it, and then it's sent away. Send a little note in it. Right. Text away pretty neat.
I think one other thing too I'd like to point out is, and I think the teachers in the room will agree, that with the emphasis on the shift, of course, this is STEM like on steroids, but with the next gen standards, and in fact, I think, Dana, you and I talked about this recently, Barb was there, about the depth of knowledge that teachers will have to have in the development of the next gen standards, and the information that they'll have to have in order to be able to appropriately educate the students, because the next gen standards are so much more intricate to the detailed knowledge of science that the ordinary preparatory work coming out of a preparatory college may not be enough. So these types of experiences for the students that you're preparing to be teachers are excellent. Would you not agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I
because
think you
really-
guys did such a great job because you taught us the way we should teach the kids.
That's right.
Like that, you modeled it really well. for us.
Commensurate with where the standards are going.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they asked us, what is the new material in your next gen standards that you haven't taught for years, that you don't feel confident about? Because we'll focus on that if you have new areas. And they asked us, and that was what was really beneficial, because as they were teaching it, we're like, we can really use this. This is really how we're going to use it.
Well, and that was the whole idea when we had to write the lessons was, okay, we'll take what we learned and what are our standards, going to standards and saying, how can we take this that we did? Now, what are we gonna do with our kids at school so that, we better hurry up.
Well, I applaud all of you for taking that step and doing this, because the kids will truly benefit. So, my hat's off to you. That's great.
If I can add, some people are learning to be grant writers because we're trying to get more of these, and they're taking their hand and looking at trying to write grants, which I mean, that's even another thing that wasn't in this particular, the syllabus. It's what was the next right thing to do, and,
Well, I think one of the, and this has nothing to do with the academics that we were taught, but just getting to know these ladies.
yes.
And we had middle school and high school teachers there. That was really cool.
The collaboration and
Yeah.
the cross-grade level.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm really proud of all of them. I really am. I can't tell you how proud I am because they've just worked so hard and it's just been so
We
worthwhile.
made sure we were sending her like pictures of it. We sent her we took a picture of the clock that one night. We're like,
We are still up, working on us, and it's not because we're slow.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present because I think it's going to be a worthwhile project, not only for us, but for the community ultimately. So it's a good thing. Thank you.
Appreciate all that and great presentation and.
Thank
looking
you.
forward to the 19th.
No public comment at this time, then we will adjourn until 7:10.
Class starts downstairs in 3 minutes.